Hello and welcome to WNC Original Music, episode 104, the Peugeot episode. Yeah, I speak a little French. This week we have part 2 with the Get Right Band. The Get Right Band are a psychedelic rock band from Asheville, North Carolina. We're going to be hearing more tracks from their most recent release, Itchy Soul, which you heard the first part of on their first episode, the first part of their episodes. And this is 2 of 3 episodes we'll be having from this recording. So you're right there, right in the middle in the sweet spot. You can find the Get Right Band at thegetrightband.com. You can also find them on Facebook and Instagram and all of the streaming places to hear their album, Itchy Soul. We'll have links to that in the show episode notes. The band have a video for their song Itchy Soul, the title track from the album, coming out in the first of the year, 2021. So make sure to keep an eye out on their social medias for that. And this month, make sure to check out their Facebook page on December 17th because they're going to be doing a live stream from the Iredell Arts Council at 7:30. I worked too hard on pronouncing Iredell and not enough on pronouncing council. Anyway, I had a really good time talking to these guys. They're a lot of fun, very talented musicians, and here they are right now, the Get Right Band.
Your man better learn to fly, better learn to swim, or better learn to die. Future skin better grow a little thicker, cause the sun burns meaner when the sky gets sicker. Future man's thirsty when the water gets spoiled. Future man's hunger when there's poison in the soil. Future blood better learn to boil. Your blood better learn to boil. I'm sick and tired of all these fake lies, these fake dividers. The air and water don't follow your mind. Don't stop at border.
Who wants this one?
I guess I'll start this one off. Yeah, Future Blood is one of those songs that I think we actually tried to play it live one time before we started recording it, and then once we got into it, we were like, let's just save this. And then this is one where, so like fans have never heard this song really. And so that makes it kind of cool that it's also one of the kind of the ragers on the album, I would say. And for the few people that I have spoiled the album to, they all really love this song because it rocks hard. And it is one of the ones that I would say, I guess it is pretty heavily produced, but it's one of those songs that it sounds like it's got that live energy. And so it's one of those songs that really helps or really kind of captures our live sound, but with a lot of those, those production elements that we've been throwing in on the album. So yeah, it's just kind of like a rager that we're all just kind of we're just punching it. It's just, it just moves.
Yeah. And I think part of that too, like I'll give a lot of props to JC for that, because I think in stacking our parts the way we did on this record, which again, we'd never done before, JC was in the studio playing to nothing, or like I was playing along with him quietly, just, for song structure, but those are scratch tracks that we threw away. So a lot was writing. So like by the time the song comes to me in this process, I've got rocking drums and rocking bass to rock out to. And then by the time I'm singing, we've got basically everything. So it's really easy to get into that vibe. And one of the things that I thought was a risk of recording this album the way we did is that JC would have nothing to rock to. He would have to bring all the rock himself, which he 100% did in the studio. So that was really cool. And I remember when he was laying down this one, I was like, oh man, he's bashing this as if we're right there rocking with him, which is, I think, kind of hard in some ways, but but then it set the tone. So then Jesse had that to build off of, and I had both of them to build off with. So it worked out really well.
Yeah, I felt like, because we had kind of talked about doing it this way beforehand. I mean, we did a lot of pre-production and kind of playing through these songs at practice. So I already had the structures in my head, and then, I already had kind of the dynamic sequence of each song worked out. So it just became about, it was cool because it kind of focusing on the click and having Silas's guitar there kind of as a guide, even though I already knew the structures, it allowed me to kind of hyper focus on the click. And, I think, it was just another way of doing it, and, kind of to introduce a new process in which to kind of feed off of to explore new territory.
Yeah, No Sound was another one, like I said earlier, that kind of helped unlock the direction that the album would go in. And it's also one of the few songs, I'd say there's really only 2 songs on the record that have a section that kind of opens up in a sort of jam way, which is a big part of our live show, but is, you know, something that we sometimes bring to the albums and sometimes don't. So we wanted to kind of leave some room in this one for that. And this one also has a little bit of kind of a Rhapsody feel, where it really kind of takes you on a journey. I think it's probably the longest song on the record.
Why number 4? Why
1 through 3 are on our last record, Who's in Charge. So I think Who's in Charge was the first record where we had some interludes like that. There's a couple inspirations that comes from. Jesse and I, like he said, we've been playing music together for over 20 years, and one of the albums we were super into in high school and ever since is by a band called Failure, and the album's called Fantastic Planet, and they have some really cool segues between songs that help transition, but also go off into just some kind of loose psychedelic musical directions. And also JC is a huge fan of the Mars Volta, and JC and Jesse have a side project where that's a tribute band to the Mars Volta, and they've got some pretty wild interlude kind of segments in their music too. And so we brought that into the last studio record, Who's in Charge, as a way, and it's a thing we do live anyways. We had just not ever done it on a studio record where we'll transition directly from one song into another live, and sometimes that happens kind of abruptly, like one song ends and the last chord of that is the first chord of the next song. But sometimes it happens with more of a spacey, kind of jammy section. And it's just a nice thing to bring into these records for, like, I think of this one as almost like a little bit of a palate cleanser, because tracks 1 through 6 really rock pretty hard, and it's a lot of it's kind of intense in a good way, in a very high energy way, but the interlude gives you a couple minutes for anyone who's really listening to the album as an album, which is what we hope for. It's a moment to kind of breathe, to have some sort of waves of psychedelic sounds wash over you and kind of reset the palette for track 8, which probably rocks harder than anything on the record. And it's also just we're all really into psychedelic music and psychedelic art, and so these interludes are a cool opportunity to explore that kind of stuff without even having to stick to the structure of a song.
More from the Get Right Band in just a few moments. Want to remind you that you can find them at thegetrightband.com, and also wherever you get your music, go and look for their most recent album. They have a lot of albums out, so look for all of them, but especially their most recent album, Itchy Soul. A lot of really good stuff up there. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast. Just search WNC Original Music, or you can go to WNCOriginalmusic.com, or, surprise, there are going to be links in the episode notes. Also, make sure to check out our Facebook page and group. That's WNC Original Music on Facebook, or Western NC Original Music. That's the group. You can find a lot of videos and extras from Western North Carolina musicians.
Hi, this is Laura Boswell, and you're listening to Western North Carolina Original Music.
I'm outspoken like a leopard with a temper and a timber like a timber saw. If you got the balls to put them against the wall, don't you be surprised when you see my claws. You can kick me while I'm down, I'm used to it, and then come back around, I'm used to it. I got bruises on my bruises, ain't new to this. Stomped on proper by steel toe boom. doing well and you can kick me while I'm down. I'm used to it. And then come back around. I'm used to it. I got bruises on my bruises. Ain't new to this. And once again I'm sleeping in the rain. There's a hole in the roof. Brains bashed in by the ugliest truth. Stopped on proper by a steel-toed boot. Laid out naked like a pulled-up root. Me while I'm down. I'm used to it. Then go back around. I'm used to it. Yeah, I got bruises on my bruises. Ain't new to this. And once again, sleeping in the rain, there's a hole in the roof. Brains bashed in by the ugliest truth. Stopped on proper by a steel-toed boot. Laid out naked like a laid out naked like a laid out naked like a pulled up root.
Yeah, it's a heavy one. I'm trying to remember where that song came from. I mean, lyrically, it came from feeling pretty devastated when the last election happened, and
I wasn't paying attention back then. Did something bad happen?
yeah. So,
really-
something pretty.
I haven't been keeping up with politics.
In my humble opinion, something pretty catastrophic happened, so that's where the lyrics came from. And I was trying to kind of write. The lyrics are pretty heavy and dark, and I wanted to write music that reflected that, but also was high energy, so that it didn't just feel like a complete downer. Like, and then JC, I think, had actually been talking about how he wanted to do something with kind of a surf rock sound. So there's one section in particular of that song that really fully goes into a surf rock sound, but there's, I think, a little element of it kind of throughout. And we're all big fans of 90s, rock and 90s grunge and alt rock and all that stuff. So I feel like a lot of those influences were kind of coming up in this song, which I think supports, it supports the lyrics without. Sometimes I feel like if the lyrics and the music match too perfectly, it doesn't work that well, because it's either too obvious or you're just kind of hitting the audience over the head with it. So I don't always like to have like a sad, dark lyric paired with a sad, dark song, like music. Sometimes I want that music to be a little more driving and energetic, so that it puts kind of a different spin on the lyrics.
This is one that I imagine would be easy to, when you play it, not get carried away with it, but really when you play it live, like even go even harder with it.
Yeah.
Do you find that happening? Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, that's one we've been playing live for a little while, and it's really fun to play live. It's a lot of energy, and the crowd is always, every time we play the crowd really lights up and just rocks the hell out with us.
Yeah, we don't really have very many songs that are kind of rocking at that level, at that tempo, with the heavy riffs, and it's definitely the hardest rocking song on the album, and possibly in our entire repertoire.
Yeah, it always puts a pep in my step when we play it live.
I deal with sadness, existential anger, frustrations of being alive, frustrations of being alive, just trying to be compassionate people and know yourself in the world, and know yourself in the world, self in the world, self in the world. Try to act from your however broken it is. There's a gray sadness that needs to be filled with temporary spackle. Yeah. 'Cause there's anonymous monsters slinging out garbage. It's a cultural malignancy. Yeah. Try to act from your heart, however broken it is.
That is an unusual one because it was written completely differently than any other song we've ever done. As a podcaster yourself, I imagine you're familiar with the podcast WTF with Mark Maron.
Oh yeah.
So I'm a big fan, and we're big fans. We listen to that a lot in the van on tour, and I listen a lot on my own. And I have a habit of writing down particularly interesting or poignant phrases that I pick up, from a podcast, from reading a novel, sometimes just something somebody has said, like, something even my bandmates have said. I've been thought, oh, that phrase is cool, and I'll jot it down in my notebook or my note app, and so I started doing that with Mark Maron's words on his podcast. Every time he would say a particularly interesting phrase, I would jot it down. And at some point, I heard him in a podcast mention that he wishes he could write songs, but he can't write lyrics. And I thought, well, that's funny, because I've been writing down all these like cool lyric type poetic things that he says, but just in normal conversation. So I decided I was going to make it into a song. So the lyrics of this song are all Mark Maron's words, taken from his podcast. And then I wrote a song around it. And then we changed the song quite a bit. When Jesse and JC got involved in arranging it. But so anyways, the song is sort of co-written with Mark Maron. He wasn't involved in the process, but he has subsequently
against his will
given us permission. And we actually recorded like a demo version of it that he played on his podcast. And so that was pretty cool.
I saw that. He said he loved it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just one thing I'll say about that song is it's probably my favorite guitar tone on the entire record. The guitar solo on that song, which it's not a very guitar solo-y album. There's not a lot of guitar solos on it. Even though I feel like, I don't know, we do a lot of guitar solos live, but sometimes I don't feel like they communicate as much on the record, or I just like them to be sparse when I feel like I really have something to say. And I felt like I really had something to say on that solo. And was just really happy with how the tone came out. It's a pretty weird, dissonant, strange sound.
Just one side note to add is that when we recorded it, we kind of left the solo section open in hopes that if we sent it to Mark, that he would do a solo in that section. And then when Silas, like we waited, we kind of gave him time to maybe do it or think about it or whatever. But then Silas ended up, doing his own thing in there. And then, after hearing what he had done and his tone and all the effects that he put in there, I found myself in a place of like, man, I'm really happy that, I'm not taking anything away from Mark's guitar playing, but just that I was happy that Silas did that, and it's one of my favorite kind of guitar sections of the whole album as well.
Yeah, Mark Maron is actually a pretty good guitar player, I believe.
Yeah,
I've heard him.
He is good.
I've heard him a couple of times. Yeah.
But I'm better.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah. Nothing, oh yeah. You are. I was gonna say he's pretty good, but you are.
No, I mean it's apples and oranges. But I was really happy with how that turned out.
Now, once he's on the podcast, I might change my tune. But
right.
For now,
yeah.
you're better than he is. Yeah. Okay, that's it for part 2 with the Get Right Band. I want to thank the guys for being on the show. Had a really good time talking to them. Don't forget to go to thegetrightband.com to get information about their past and upcoming releases. Also, check the show notes and their website for that upcoming live show we talked about, and also their video coming out in January. And just one more reminder to subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast, WNC Original Music. The closing song this week comes from independent artist KOLE. He is from California and Pittsburgh. He's got an EP coming out in February called California H2O, and he's got a single coming for that in January. So make sure to check the show notes for information on that and where to follow him. This is his song, About Her. Have a good week.
Why can't you make me forget about her? And why can't this take away all the hurt? And why can't we seem to make this thing work? 'Cause no matter what we try, you and I just ain't right. Nah, I gotta be honest, I'm trying my hardest to look at you the way I looked at her when we were naked. Yeah, baby, I know that we're making love, but you know we ain't making love when we do is, you ain't heard. Yeah, checking, making sure that my man's tight. I'm looking you in the eye, knowing damn well I'm telling lies. But I can't just play pretend anymore. Just play pretend anymore. So I'm ripping it off like a band-aid. Not playing it safe. For some I'm gonna say what I should have said the first day. I gotta be honest, I'm trying my hardest to look at you the way I looked at her when we were naked. Yeah, yeah. Baby, I know that we're making love, but you know we ain't making love. When we do this, it hurts to say this, but the truth is, you ain't her. Should've ended it yesterday. Still these stupid games I play, acting like I'm showing you everything that I could possibly say, but I know I ain't. So here I go. Why can't you read my fucking mind? Why can't you see? I will not decide. Why can't you just be mine? Why do I have to divide? I gotta be honest. I'm trying my hardest to look at you the way I looked at her when we were naked. Yeah, yeah. Baby, I know that we're making love, but you know we ain't making love. When we do this, it hurts to say this, but the truth is, you ain't happy. Why can't you read my phone? Why can't you see? When I decide, why can't you just be? You ain't heard. Why do I have to divide?
I'm going to tear this off, but I realized I wrote this on the
I
back
can take
here.
a picture because
Oh, yeah, take a picture.
It is 2019.
It'll last
Ron.
longer. As you hear that, it'll last longer, like
I get
when somebody's staring at you.
You're really funny, Ron.
I'm talking to the podcast audience now. I'll cut that out, obviously.